Welcome back everybody, my name is Dustin, and today we're actually going to get started creating our game engine. We have a lot to do in this video, so I may break it down into two videos. I'm going to try to get into one, but we'll see. So the first thing we're going to do is create the project, and then we're also going to try to render a window to the screen. There's a lot to do, so let's go over some more details. Alright, so since we're going to be starting the project today, so let's go over some of the details. The first thing we're going to be doing is creating a new Visual Studio solution. The solution will be the structure that will help aid us in the organization of the projects. And for that, we're actually going to be creating 4 projects in that solution. The 4 projects will be GLAD. That will be our OpenGL loading library. We'll be going through where to get these files in order to build it correctly. I decided to name the game engine Scion2D, but you can name it whatever you like. This will have various utility functions and classes to be used in other projects in the engine. We will be using SDL for the windowing and input functions, and we will separate that into its own project as well. And finally, the Scion editor. We will start with the editor first because we want to be able to edit the game, and then when we're ready, we will have the actual engine that will not have any editor specific functionality, or most of it won't be. That's why we're separating out in separate projects. So things that we need in the editor specific can be in that project, but things we need in the engine and the editor will be in the other projects, and we can use them as references. So let's quickly go over the project breakdown. All we're going to need for GLAD are these 3 files, glad.h, khrplatform.h, and glad.c. We'll be building that as a static library, and we'll be going to this website to get the package to download. At this website, you can tell it various attributes and different functionalities for how you want GLAD to be, and it will build a package for you to build your own static library. For now, Scion Utilities will only have 2 files, the SDL wrappers.h and SDL wrappers.cpp. We will be building this as a static library as well, and it will be referenced in the other projects. The SDL wrappers will be custom deleters for some SDL types. This will allow us to use smart pointers for the C-style pointers in SDL. This will help handle some cleanup if we forget to put that in. Scion windowing. We will have a few different folders for organizing. However, for now, we're only going to focus on the window. We'll basically be wrapping the SDL window functionality, and eventually we'll be getting into inputs for like gamepads, keyboards, mouse, and that'll all be done with using SDL. So let's get started with the project. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is open up Visual Studio and go to create new project, and then come here and just type in solution. It should come up as blank solution. Go to next, and we're going to call it, pick your location that you want. I put mine in development, and I'm going to call it Scion. You can call it whatever you want, but this is going to be the solution that holds all of our projects. So we're going to call it Scion. I'll call it Scion2D, and create. Okay, so now we have an empty solution, and we're going to add some projects. So we're going to add, go here, new project, and just an empty project, next, and we're going to call it GLAD. Actually, we'll call all our projects will have capitals, so GLAD. Go back to your solution, add new project, empty project, Scion Utilities, add a new project, Scion window, and then add one more project, and this will be the editor, Scion editor. Alright, and the first thing we're going to do for these 3, not the editor, for these 3, we're going to go here, go to our properties, and we're going to set these as static libraries, and I want to use C++20. We'll start with that. Same with this one. Static. C++20. And with the editor, we also want to change that, but just to C++20. Now, I think there's a template we could have for when creating new projects. It's automatically set to C++20, but we'll just leave that for now. And now we're going to want to go get GLAD. And if you just type in GLAD download in your browser, it should take you right to here. And this will allow us to pick what we want. So what do we want? OpenGL. What version do we want? We're going to use 4.5. Do we need any of these extensions? I'm not sure if we do, so we're just going to leave that out. Compatibility, let's go to core, OpenGL, that's what we want. Then you just go here and go generate. Bam, and it gives us this beautiful little zip file. And you can go through here and see what files you need. And we're just going to download GLAD. And then go here, go to your downloads, and you can just extract files here. And we want these. And we can cut those. Go to wherever you saved your files. Go to GLAD. But before we do that, let's go back into our project. Change this. And we're going to add a new folder, and we'll call it source. So if we go back into our folder here, we'll have source. Let's go into source and just paste those in. Go back here. Cool. And we should have all those. And we should be able to build this. So let's just go build, see if that works. Cool, one build succeeded. That's what we wanted. Awesome. So now that we have GLAD, now we're going to want to go get SDL. SDL2 download. And we're going to want to go to releases. And we want this right here. The latest and greatest SDL2 developers package. So we'll download that now. Once that's done downloading, we can show in folder. And we're going to want to, let's just extract files right here. So what do we want from this? We want, so we want the include, we'll take the whole include. So we'll take that include, open up your other go back to here, and we're going to make a new folder on the outside here and call it dependencies. And from here, let's make a new folder, and we'll just call this SDL. Let's go back to our other folder and go to lib. Now, we don't care about x86. I only want to do the x84 stuff or x64 stuff. And we can copy all of this. Create a new folder over here. Lib. Cool, that's in. And we've got everything we want from there. Is there a license one? I don't see it. I don't see the license, but that's fine. It's probably this. Let's just put that in there with it. Cool. So you can go back here. We can delete all these because we don't need them. Let's go back into our project. And the first thing we're going to do is start with our utilities. So we quickly want to go here, go add, new folder, and we'll call it Scion util. And here we're going to create our wrappers. So new. SDL wrappers.h. And we're going to give it a namespace. Scion2D. And before we do anything here, we need to link SDL to our project. So go here in our directories. And it should be in our dependencies, the include, that's what we want. And then we're going to go here, get rid of all of this. So what this does is it checks where your solution is, the directory, and then goes back one to get to the dependencies. Because if we go here, we go into our solution directory and we go into dependencies. That's what we want to do. Now we do our library directories. It's the same idea. Dependencies, SDL, lib. Select that folder. Now we got to go to librarian, additional dependencies, SDL2.lib. All right, now we should be able to include SDL. And then we need memory. So now we want to make a little struct, and we'll call this struct SDL destroyer. Now this is just going to be all the custom deleters that we're going to need for various SDL types. So we do that by going void operator SDL window pointer window const. So we're not going to need the renderer because we're going to be using OpenGL for rendering. We're not going to need the SDL texture, but we are going to need the game controller. And we are going to need the SDL cursor. The SDL cursor is going to be the actual mouse cursor in the editor. So we'll be able to change it based on one of the OS types. All right, there's those. And before we create those, we're going to make a few type defs here. Type def. And we're going to have std shared pointer, SDL game controller. And we'll just call this controller. And for that, we're going to have a static function. And it's going to create a controller. And it's going to be called make shared controller. And that's going to take in an SDL game controller, controller pointer. And we're going to have another type def for the cursor. And make shared cursor. And a couple more type defs. Type def. Unique pointer of SDL window, and that will be Scion2D SDL destroyer, because we need the custom deleter. And we'll call this the window pointer. All right, let's try to make all of these. Beautiful, just made those all for us. Now let's go over here. First thing I want to include is just IO stream. We don't have a logger right now, so everything's going to be logged with IO stream. We'll make a logger later on. And this is pretty straightforward, so it just calls the SDL destroy window. And it takes in that window pointer. And just to make sure that this gets called, we want to go std cout destroyed SDL window. Awesome. And we'll fill the rest of this stuff in later. These aren't necessary right now. We want to try to get the window open. So that's good for now. Let's move into the window. So what do we need for the window? Let's make a few folders. And we'll just call this windowing. And then we'll make another folder. And that'll be inputs. And make another folder. And that'll just be the window. And then in window, we'll have window.h and window.cpp. Before we keep going with this, we actually want to go here to our window. We want utilities to be a reference. So we're going to go here, and then we want to add a reference, and we want the utilities. Okay. Then we want to go here. This is what I like to do. Go to our VC directories, and we want to include our utilities. Scion utilities, and I want to include that. Solution dir. That should work. And then here we should be able to include Scion utilities, SDL wrappers. Nice. And then let's also include string. And we have a namespace. This one will be Scion window wing. We're going to have class window. So what's our window going to need? So our window is going to need the window itself, the SDL window. For that, we're going to use the window pointer that we created. So we're going to need a window pointer, and we'll call that MP window. We're also going to need an SDL GL context. And we'll just call that MGL context. So that's another thing. So it doesn't know what SDL is. Even though I have this, it's still not sure what SDL is. I need to do the same thing with SDL. So we got to go to properties. Dependencies, SDL, include. Library directories. apply that. Go to librarian. STL2.lib. Cool, now we know what that is. So what else does a window need? So a window is going to need a title. And a window is going to need its width, its height. And its X and Y pause. X pause. Y pause. We're also going to have some flags. STL has various flags that you can use for what attributes you want your window to have. So, window flags. And we're also going to have a private function, and we'll actually put it under another private. And we'll call that void create new window. And that's going to take in our we might not even have to send those flags in, but we'll do it for now. And then window, and it will be, so this is our window constructor, const std string, and that's going to be our title. And then we're going to have our width, height, and then we're going to have our X pause, Y pause, are we vsync, and that will default as true. And the last one's going to be our window flags. I'll put that on a new line. uint 32 flags, and we'll also have a default for that. And it's going to be STL window OpenGL. And then we want to OR these together. Resizable, there it is. And then STL window mouse capture. And that's good for now. We're going to have just a window destructor. And let's create a default window. This window will just call the other window with some default properties, and we'll just call this default window 640, 480, STL window centered, I think it is, or centered window. Window pause centered. STL window pause centered. And then just null. Not nil, null. Oh wait, sorry, we need true. Cool. All right, so we're gonna have a few inline functions here, just inline void, set, GL, context. And that's gonna take STL, GL context, reference, GL context, get a window pointer reference, return the window. Actually, let's put this here. Get the GL context. Get the window name. Should we say get title? I'll just say get name. Set window name. That one can't be inline. That one's a bit more involved. Get XPOS. YPOS. Let's do our setters. And the last two will be the width and height. And let's create these. We'll create this one as well. Now, I actually don't like that, the way that looks with the, I actually like doing this. Name space, Scion, window wing. All right, so now we're going to want to initialize our variables, and we'll just initialize the MP window as null. So inside of here, we're going to want to call our create window, create new window, sorry, function, and that takes in our flags. Then we want to check, do we want to enable vsync? If vsync, if not, SDL set hint. Oh, we're going to need to add IOStream to enable. And then we just want to put in a little notice that we created the window successfully. We also want to go back here. We're going to need this function as well. So this here, we're just going to set the title is equal to the name. And then we're going to want to go SDL set window title. And that takes in the window, np window get, and then the name dot c string. So now the create window is pretty straightforward. All we're doing is going np window is equal to window ptr, and inside of that we just want to wrap the SDL create window function. And that's going to take our M title, XPOS, or sorry, not, yeah, XPOS, YPOS, width, height, and flags. Now here we want to check to see if the window was created correctly. Not. Oh man. If not np window, let's get the error from SDL. Fail to create the window. Add the error in. Not plus, sorry. Well, we don't really have to put the return in here, but we should probably exit the program, but we'll leave that for now. All right, now in the editor, all we're going to do now is add a new folder, and we'll just call this source. Inside of source, we're just going to add a main. Main.cpp. Okay. Now we're going to be doing all of our stuff inside of main for now. We'll separate everything later, but for now we're going to do everything in main. So first thing we're actually going to want to do is go here and go to our references, add our references. Let's add all 3 of these as references. Okay. Go into here, properties, directories, includes. Now let's include dependencies, SDL, include. Add another one. Dependencies. Actually, nope. Glad. Source. Include. Let's add the utilities. And the window. All right. In our libraries, now let's add our 2 libraries. We want SDL. And we're also going to want the Glad library. Oh, no, we don't need the Glad library because we're referencing it. Never mind. So we only want SDL there. But in our linker, we're going to need to link SDL2.lib. And we're also going to need OpenGL32.lib. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is before we do anything, let's handle main from SDL. SDL main handled 1. And then now we want to include our window. So include windowing, window, and include SDL. And we also want to include Glad. Now we will be separating this all into other stuff, but for now, let's just get a window going, see if we're working. So let's just create something right here, bool running is equal to true. And let's initialize SDL, init SDL. To do that, we go if SDL init SDL init. This should be. We're just going to init everything. Not equal to 0. We'll also do a precompiled header next video, but let's just get this going for now. And failed to initialize SDL, get the error. And then we'll just set running is equal to false. And then we'll set up OpenGL through SDL. And that is if SDL GL load library. And we don't need to put anything here. Yeah, so it's looking for a path. We don't need to put that in. So the same thing, we basically can copy this. Fail to open GL library. Now we want to set the OpenGL attributes, and that's just SDL GL set attribute. And I'm going to be using SDL GL context major 4. Holy crap. And context minor is going to be version 4.5. And we just want to use the profile core. So now we're going to set the number of bits per channel. Which is also an attribute, but it's SDL, GL, red size, and we're going to use 8-bit for that. If you go here to the SDL wiki for GL attributes, it has what they all are and their description here. So this is the minimum number of bits for the red channel of the color buffer. It defaults at 3, we're going to want it to 8. So we're going to have to do red, green, blue, and we're going to have the depth size. Put that to 24. That's for the depth buffer. Minimum number of bits is 24. We can do this again. Do we want it to be double buffer? Yes. And we just set this to 1. Right here we can put stencil size. We'll have that default to 8. And we want accelerated visual. So accelerated visual, if you set this to 1, you require hardware acceleration. If you set to 0, you're forcing software rendering. So now let's create the window. and that is Scion windowing window. I will just call this window right now is equal to, I will just say test window and 640, 480. True, and we'll only put one flag for now. OpenGL, and we'll check to see if not window. Oh, we don't need a string for that. We just need to go std. Failed to create the window. Return -99. That's what these should all be doing as well. These should be returning a number. You can set running to false, but this is just for now. We don't want it to keep going if any of these fail, yeah, we don't want it to keep going. There's no need for it to keep going. So now we want to create the OpenGL context. And that is just window set GL context, and that is just SDL GL create context, and we send in the window. And that's got to be a pointer. That's all we have to send in for that. Why is that not happy? That's why this returns this, and this is looking for a reference. So we actually have to go back to that and change that. And I think if we come back to the main, yeah. So let's see if window.getGLContext. If not, failed to create OpenGL context. And this one we can get the error. We can just do this. Now we want to make that context current. That takes in a window and GL context. Now let's set our swap interval. And now we want to initialize glad. And if that doesn't work, std cout failed to load GL. All right. So now we're also going to have an SDL event. So we can quickly close the window. And we'll just call this the window loop. So while we're still running, so if we make it here, running will be true. So now we also want to process events. And we'll do that by while SDL pull events, not events, pull event, send in the event. We're only gonna have a few right now, because we don't really care about stopping it. So event dot type, that'll be what we'll switch on, and it's case SDL quit will be the first one. We'll just set running to equal to false. SDL key down, and then if event sys sensor, sorry, key sim dot sim is equal to SDLK escape. We also want running to equal false. And we'll have a default just to break, because that's all I care about right now. All right, that should be good there. So now let's create our GL viewport, and that's just going to be window.get xpos, ypos, width, height. Cool. And then here, GL clear color. Let's just make it blue. You can make it whatever color you want for now, but I'm just gonna make it blue. And GL clear. And this will just be GL color buffer bit and SDL GL swap window. That's window dot get window dot get. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. It's looking pretty good. I don't know yet, we'll see. We're probably forgetting something. So, closing. And let's just run it. We're probably gonna have a bunch of errors. Cannot start blah, 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 blah. Cannot find specified path. What does it mean it can't find the path? Let's try again. Alright, so I found what the issue was, and it was a silly mistake on my behalf. So in here, I forgot in our GLAD project, I didn't include these files in the project. So when it was building, it was basically building an empty project. So I wasn't doing anything. Also here in the properties, you're going to want to set the include directory here to solution dir glad include. So that it sees this here. That's what we need. So that built now, and then but we found a new error once it built. So when you build it, you're going to get this SDL2 DLL error was not found. So that's a problem. So what we need to do is open up our folder, go to dependencies, SDL, lib, copy this DLL, and bring this into our editor and just copy it into this folder here, and it should work. We may have some more errors, but let's see. Yay! We got a blue window. And if we hit escape, it should close. The window opened successfully, no errors. Cool. All right, that's it for this episode. So stick with me next time, and we'll start splitting everything up in the editor into an application and make an actual application loop. All right, I'll see you next time.